Through these songs. The way that I imagine this whole show in my head, and I'll bring you through it best I can, is that I've sectioned the songs off chronologically to try to bring you through my journey as a musician. My path through the industry and through music hasn't been the normal course that one takes, but that's okay because it gives me the opportunity to bring you through that journey and really show you, or try to show you the way that, what I believe, God has had his hands in a lot of what I've done. So my disclaimer is this: I might say some things that you might disagree with, say some things that you do agree with. I'm not trying to change your mind about anything. I'm not trying to put any sort of thoughts that might not be in your head. This is about my journey. But my hope for all of us at the end of the night, as always, is that you leave this place better than you came. I know we're all going through something in our lives. It's just the nature of life, right? And so I'll tell you about the long road to you. Playing the wrong song, just to be honest with you. Headlights on the highways of America. It seems like it's been raining for days. Trees seem bare when you're not there. I have to go cataclysmic clash. Nothing left but tears and ash. Walk along this fine line of psychosis. One love. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. First things first, a pile of stone will fall to earth. We'll build a wall, keep out the invaders with the slaves on it. 10 feet tall from another dimension. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. Across the sky, a green and blue flash. There's nothing left but tears and ash. Walk along this fine line, psychosis. One love. I believe. I believe. I believe. I believe. First things first, a pile of stone falls to earth. We'll build a wall to keep out the invaders. We'll enslave us all. The 10 feet tall from another dimension. I believe. I believe. I Thank you. Cool, thank you very much. So let's start at the beginning, right? I was born in 1975, March 21st, 1975, which is also the same year that America got out of the Vietnam War. My dad was a soldier, and right from being in the Navy, he then became a police officer. I lived with my family in, we grew up in Oradell, New Jersey for like 2 years. We stayed there. My dad got a job. His big job, he always wanted to be a state trooper. And he was given a job in Oradell, New Jersey as a patrolman. People find it interesting that, you know, my dad was a cop.
He was busting me and my friends.
Yeah, it's fucking true. Go down the road and talk to my dad. Dad, I'm going down the road. Yeah, that's how he talks, like this. Yeah, hey, Mike, is that Loki guy going with you? My dad's known Loki a long time. Yeah, make sure he's out of trouble. Yeah, keep him out of trouble. My dad's like Chief Wiggle. But I have memories of the house in Oradell. We were only there for 2 years. And things that connect later on in my life. I have a memory of looking out the window in the house one day. Across the street they were doing
tree where they were removing a tree, or a bunch of trees. And I remember the sound of the chipper and the chainsaws. And I all day long I watched these guys. I was very, very young. Have a memory. I don't know if it's a dream or it was actually the backyard. The way I describe it, it's kind of both. At least, when I tell my parents, I have this memory of there's a swing set in the backyard. We grew up, or the house was located. I thought I was freaking out for a second. The house was located on a dead end street. There were tracks. There was an Amtrak tracks, and my brothers and sisters and their friends always told me. I remember I was very young that it was haunted. And I have this memory again. I don't know if it was a dream or it was real. I wandered out there one day, and I was looking down the tracks, and I thought that I heard, fucking ghosts or whatever. I was very young. So then my grandmother died, and we had to move to Dumont. Again, I was 2, and when my grandmother passed away, obviously, it devastated my mother. I'm a bit of a mama's boy, and so. Whatever was happening in my family, especially with my mom, I really feel that I was picking up on that energy, on that sadness that was in my family, and it did something to me. I asked my mother one day why all the songs that we listened to were about love, and my mom said, love is what makes the world go around. So I'll bring it to about between the ages of 5, 6, 7 years old, strange shit started to happen to me. I always wanted to be a preacher. That was the first dream in my heart, was to be a preacher. I grew up in a Christian family, and I wanted to be a preacher. And then somewhere around the age of 5, maybe 7, the dream started to change. Music started to become. Any time I listened to a song, I could feel the song. It was very strange, but that's not the strange shit that happened to me. I can't go on forever here because I know we have limited time. There's a song called 1119. A lot of people ask me about that song. When I was very young, I began to have what are described, or what are called out-of-body experiences. Some people call it like sleep paralysis as well. And I remember clear as day, one night I woke up and I was above my bed. I could see myself down below. I couldn't move. And I looked over my shoulder, and I could see the clock radio on the bedstand, and it was 11:19. And again, I don't have time, but that number 1119, 11:19, has been with me in so many different ways throughout my life. Let's play a song called Supernatural. Sit in this darkness until the answers are revealed. Go quietly if you must. Take a moment, see light. expect me to be supernatural. I'm not allowed to talk about it, I'm not so sure. Supernatural. We will sit in this darkness until the answers are revealed. Go quietly if you must. Take a moment, see like me. I can't do the impossible. You can't expect me to be supernatural. I'm not allowed to talk about it, I'm not so sure anymore. You can't expect me to be supernatural. Talk about it, I'm not so sure, yeah, that I'm supernatural. I'm supernatural. 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 Thank you. So, I start getting older. I want to be a musician. Like I said, my heart changed. Oh, that's why it's an E. My heart started to change. There's so the guitar was an E major. I gotta go down here. I'm multitasking. I hope I'm giving all the young people some hope that, you know, all the young players like, oh shit, I saw Michael Graves, I can do that. This dude's been in the business 25 years. He tuned his guitar for 20 minutes, told us he woke up floating over the bed. True though. Alright. So the dream of my heart changes, right? There's a verse in the Christian Bible. It says, "What gain a man if he gain? What does a man gain if he inherits the whole world and loses his soul in the process?" And that stuck with me as a young person, right? One of the things that triggered the change in my heart, my parents always brought us to New York City, and brought us to New York City for the first time. I was really young. I remember seeing a homeless guy, and it blew my mind. It was like homeless people are real. And I went home and I started writing songs. The first song I wrote was called like Mostly Alone. You know, it was about thinking about this guy sleeping on the street. I never saw anything like that in my life. Here we are, we're celebrating Christmas, and it's like a joyous time, and this fucking guy sleeping on the street. It blew my mind. And so I began to write songs and learn how to play. And probably for the first 6 or 8 months I had a guitar. My uncle lived in the house with us, and he had a guitar. I put it in the closet, and I took it out. And it had like 5 strings, you know, maybe 4 or 5 strings. I was out of tune, and I would just sit there and try to write songs. Eventually, I found someone in school I was going to that was a guitar player. His name was Dave Hogan. Back then, there's record companies, like small independent record companies, would send out letters, and and there would be these song contests, and the winner would get a record contract. You know, every submission you'd have to give $20. And my buddy got one in the mail, and I got it too. And the contest was to write a song entitled "Where the Sky Ends" and submit it. And the winner was to get a record contract, and of course that's what we wanted. So my buddy wrote this song, I don't know, when we were 12 years old. I'm not gonna play you Mostly Alone, but I'll play Where the Sky Ends. I don't know why, shouldn't have told you, I shouldn't have lied, told you everything was fine, I should have known you and I'd be better off alone. I want to take you where the eagles fly. I want to take you there again. I want to take you where there's time to spend. I want to take you where the sky ends. We were only young, your parents wouldn't understand. You were so afraid that we wouldn't make it in this age. So we left a space in time to move on to another life. Take you there again. I wanna take you where the eagles fly. I wanna take you where the sky ends. Parents wouldn't understand, so we left the space in time to move on to another life. Just to be with you, I wanna take you where the eagles fly. Where the sky ends. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate you coming out. I appreciate you listening to me. Like I said, this is the first night I'm going through this, so so I apologize for the bumps in the road, but I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad we're doing this together. Thank you very much, everybody here at Rampworks, for giving me this opportunity. So, I mean, I wanted to start off with going all the way back because I think I'm trying to reinforce that I'm just an ordinary man. There's nothing extraordinary about my younger years, you know. My family was very normal. I don't want to say I was normal, you know. I'm floating above the bed and stuff. But I knew that I was given the gift of something, art, and music, and I even to this day, as proof as I'm standing up here, I have this unshakable desire and urge to communicate. And it wasn't until later in life that it all kind of, sort of, I guess, came together. So here I am, growing up, right? Start to get into more of my teenage years, and that's when I started to go sideways on my parents. I wasn't the easiest adolescent to deal with because all I cared about was my music. All I cared about was that, and I knew that at some point in my life I was going to be a musician. Knew it. I told everybody that, everybody in school, you know, all the teachers and and there was nothing really there was nothing that I paid attention to except music. The one thing that shook me out of that, that my parents and the people that were trying to keep me on the straight and narrow saw that I had responded to, was this place up in New York State. I'll go through this really, really quick, right? So my ancestors are from Irish descent. They came over on a boat, you know, in the early 1900s. So a lot of Irish people came over here poor, like my family, very, very poor, working class people. And then eventually, as the years went on, large groups of Irish people would vacation up in the Catskill Mountains. My family was one of those families. And there was a particular place that we went to. It's now called Sunny Hill Resort. It used to be called Sunny Hill Farm. I loved it. I loved the feeling that when we were up there, because it's just a very, think Dirty Dancing, and then, but not as, you all seen Dirty Dancing, right? Yeah. I talked to some of you It's kind of like that, like get that sort of picture in your head, but not as fancy. And I loved being up there. The families would come up there, and there was just, I don't know how to describe it. And I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of the machine, if you will. And it was up there. Well, my family went to the family that owns a place called the Nicholsons, and said, listen, my son's got fucking blue hair, and he's just out of his mind. The only thing that he really loves besides music is being here and working here. And so the Nicholson family took me in like their own and allowed me to work up there. And I met this kid when I was young. His name was Darren. Again, I was very awkward. I was very, very awkward. I was very weird. It was very difficult for me to be in social settings. It wasn't easy for me to talk to people. Some of you understand. I met Darren, and him and I just kind of kicked it off right away. First person in the world I ever gave my autograph to was Darren. I used to tell him about someday I'm going to be a musician, this and that, and he was one of the few people that I had come across that would really listen. Be like, yeah, man. Long story short, I was going to finish out my senior year in high school up in Greenville, New York. And for whatever reasons, it didn't work out. I went home. My plan in life was to continue to work at Sunny Hill and live up in New York State, where I live now. Darren died in 1993. I got a phone call. I was at home. It was March. He died March 31st. And he drowned in the Catskill Creek. Him and a bunch of other kids decided they were going to go canoeing on the Catskill Creek. And it was a particularly ferocious spring melt, right? So the Catskill Creek was just raging, like rapids, like you've never seen. And the water was real, real cold. So Darren and a bunch of other kids, they decided as a safety, they're like, all right, we'll tie, just in case we fall out of the boat, they tied ropes around, like Darren was tied to, I think our friend Matt, and then there was other people. So the boat capsized and Darren died. Again, I made the decision to not go back that summer after he passed away, which led me down the path that I'll explain to you after I play a song that I wrote called Gorge, from my friend Darren Gorge. Hello in heaven, am I coming in clearly? Can you see me here down below? Excuse me, choking up. My candles black are burning, the drowning water's taking my best friend away. Yeah, my best friend's away. I really can't understand now what I'm crying for. I wish you'd just stand up, get up now, and open up your sunshine eyes. While I'm standing here, and every time I close my eyes, I see your eyes go under the wave to fatal sleep. It's killing me, it's killing me. I'll cut that rope from my throat. I really let go, I'll never walk away. We should just stand up, get up now, open up your sunshine eyes while I'm standing here. And every time I close my eyes, I see your eyes go under the wave into the fatal sea. Thank you. So Darren's dead, and I don't go back. And I stay home, and I got a job with a tree company. And I remember looking out the window when I was real young, and hearing those sounds. And there was one of the connections I remembered that I made. A couple years earlier, a friend of mine's husband asked me, his name was Ron, so what are you going to be when you grow up? I said, I'm going to be a musician. He's like, it's bullshit. You're going to have to do something, to supplement your income, right? My dad, well, I'll leave that for later. So my friend Ron took me into the woods, and he taught me how to climb. He taught me how to climb trees and tie ropes, and taught me how to use chainsaws. And thank God, because that's something that had got me through for a lot of times. You need a job, and I knew how to do something other than just play songs. So I'm working at a tree company. I joined a band called Mopes. And we were really good. And I'm working and decided that we need to record a demo. We had recorded some stuff before, but I really wanted to do something for real. Again, long story short, I walked into a studio one day in Lodi, New Jersey, and met a guy named Bobby Aleka. And I sat down with Bobby, and we're talking one day when we were doing vocals, and he said, I know this guy, his name is Jerry Kayaffa. He's got a band called The Misfits. And I turned to him, I said, I can't sing death metal, Bobby. You hear what I'm singing. and Bobby goes, no, man, that ain't it. So he gave me Jerry Kayaffa's number. I called him up. I said, hey man, I heard that you have auditions. He said, yeah, why don't you learn as many songs as you possibly can, come up and audition. So that's what I did. I learned a bunch of songs. I went up and I auditioned. I know I'm doing a lot of talking, so let me play you one of the songs from the Misfits, and then I'll give you the longer version of how I eventually got into that band. So it was the eve of my 20th birthday. I went up there and I did probably 2 or 3 albums worth of material. To be continued. Let me play a song called Scream. I don't want to run out of time. You guys dig the story? You want me to just play?
Story.
Are you good? All right. I'm going to listen to that guy say there. He knows what's up. Chill runs up your spine, crawls into your brain. Freezing touch of fear. It's driving me insane. Oh, look, try to fight back from the silence where you hide till you scream until you scream. She runs up your spine, crawls into your brain. The freezing touch of fear it's driving me insane. Although you try to fight back from the silence where you hide till you scream until you scream. see if I can give you the expedited version of this. All right, so, okay. So I auditioned with the Misfits, and I go up there, and I did I thought I did a good job. First time I went up there, Doyle wasn't, it was just me, Chud, Jerry. And we're doing the whole audition thing, I'm singing these songs, boom, done. I'm like, all right, now what? It's like, yeah, we'll give you a call. So,
Yeah, kid, don't worry about it.
yeah, no. So I kept on going back. You know, I'd get a call, and I'd go back, and I'd help them rehearse. And then they got the idea to take out an ad in the paper, and all from coast to coast, people start to show up at the rehearsal spot that was up in Vernon, New Jersey, because word got out that Jerry began to tape all of the auditions. So I would show up, and no lie, there would be a line at the audition room. It went snaked all the way down the steps, all the way down into the lobby and outside, and just people that wanted to try out for the band, but to, you know, make a tape with Jerry only and everybody. So jump to it's approaching. There's so much more, but I'm gonna run out of time.
So there's a bunch of motherfuckers with tapes playing with them?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. Chud was in charge of the recording bit. He brought all his stuff. Docker. So Halloween is approaching, and the guys from Typo Negative reach out to Jerry and everybody, and they say, "Listen, we're playing in Roseland on Halloween night. If you guys want to come out and jam during the encore set, come on out." So the Misfits had to make a decision at this point. They either were going to relaunch on Halloween when they did, or they would have to wait a whole another year, right? Because it's the Misfits, and you got to come back. It's got to be Halloween. So the Misfits camp, they say, well, they asked Pete, if Pete Steele, who sang for Typo Negative, if he would sing. And Pete said, sure, I'll sing. I don't know any of the songs, but I'll sing. So then I got a phone call, and they said, hey, we're going to play with Typo Negative on Halloween. Peter doesn't know any of the songs, but do you want to teach him the songs? I was a huge Typo Negative fan, so I was like, yeah, I'll teach Pete whatever he wants. It's funny too, like a couple years before that, you know, with the band Mopes, I went to see Typo at some little tiny place in New York State, and I walked up to Pete after the show, because he came out and he would stand by the merch at some of the shows and talk to people. I was like, hey Pete, what's up? and I had a tape, and I'm like, this is a tape of my band, we're called Mopes. If you ever get a chance, you know, listen to it, well. And he was so cool, he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna check this out. And I told him that story later on in life, because, you know, we became friends, and he was like, yeah. I was like, you were so cool though. And he was so nice. So we get to the rehearsal spot in Brooklyn, and I'm freaking out. Right, I'm just a normal Joe. I'm like, oh man, that's fucking Typo Negative. Right, so we start playing these songs. It was like Halloween Horror Business, something else, and Pete's singing, and actually, I did it first. I said, well, let me sing these songs, and I'll show you how it goes, and then you do it. We had the lyrics, and I sang the song. And then we sang the song again, and I sang the song again. He was like, all right, Pete, you do it. And I swear to God, like, while we were doing it, he was hardly paying attention the first couple of times I did it. I swear, he was doing something with a grinder. Like, it was fucking nuts, man. I swear, he was like, I don't know if he was just messing with me or with us, but he was like grinding stuff on his bass, and sparks were going everywhere. I was like, all right, man, it's your time. So he sang it through once, and then we did Hard Business. At one point, he stopped everything. Pete goes, listen, this kid sings these songs way better than I could ever sing them. This is the singer for your band, guys. This is the guy. And I was like, fuck yeah, man, listen to Pete, Steve. Listen to Pete. And yeah, so I walked out on stage on Halloween night on the encore part of Typo Negative. And from then on, pretty much was the singer of the Misfits. There's more to the story, because then we went to Coney Island High, and it was like a riot, and it was crazy. But Again, I'm running out of time. So this song I wrote, it was on Famous Monsters. You should have saw the look on the faces of those dudes when I played this song from them the first time. I was like, all right, check this song out, guys. There's 52 ways to murder anyone. 1 and 2 the same. They both work well. Coming clean for Amy. Julie doesn't scream that as well. The cops won't listen all night. So maybe I'll be over as soon as I fill them all in. I can remember when I saw her last. Yeah. We were running around having a blast. Backseat, the driving is so lonely without you. I know when you're home, I was thinking about you. There was something I forgot to say. I was crying on Saturday night. I was cruising without you. They were playing our song, crying on Saturday night. Whoa, whoa, whoa. As the moon becomes a night, you go viciously, quietly away. I'm sitting in the bedroom where we used to sit and smoke cigarettes. I'm watching you die. Oh, I can remember when I saw her last. We were running around having a blast. In the backseat, the driving is so lonely without you. I know when you're home, I was thinking about you. There was something I forgot to say. Crying on Saturday night. I was cruising without you. They were playing our song, crying on Saturday night. Yeah, crying on Saturday night. Hey. So the question is, well, why did I leave the band? Why did I leave the Misfits? And that goes back to that Bible verse, right? What does a man gain if he inherits the whole world, gains the whole world, and loses his soul in the process? I never got into this to be the famous guy. Like I said, being the center of attention, quite frankly, makes me nervous. It makes me uncomfortable. Because it's not about me, it's more about my message and what I'm trying to do to people and for people. Right? It's not about me. And so when I got to the point where I had to make a decision about leaving that band, I had the whole world. I mean, I had more money than I could spend. I remember I would wake up and be like, what am I going to buy today? Like, what am I going to do? I had everything that I guess, and I was 20-something years old. But I wasn't happy. There was just misery around me. Everybody that I met, we would go out, not everybody, but a vast majority of the people in the entertainment industry and the music industry are not happy people, at least in the people that I came across. And again, we toured with Life of Agony, we did a ton of touring with Guar. And those people were amazing. Dave Brockie was an angel to me. Always came out of nowhere and would help me out. When we toured with Life of Agony, one of the very first tours we did, those guys too were incredibly good to me. The guys from Type O Negative, Pete Steele, I knew and stayed in touch with Pete up to the day he died, up to the time he died. Dave Brockie too, who passed away recently. These guys were champions for me. It was amazing. But it was misery all the time in the band. And I was always told, if you don't like things, there's a mile-long people behind you that would love to be in your spot. And that never made me feel very special at all. And I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't care. There's some people in that band that loved it. It was really messed up. And so I decided, and I told those guys, I said, you know what, I'd rather go home and live on the corner like that homeless guy that I was writing songs about when I first got into this, and have my integrity and have my values and not make a decision based on how much money I had in the bank. Thank you. Or how many hot chicks I could hang out with and have as girlfriends, or how much stuff I could buy. It wasn't about that. And so I gave it all up and I walked away. And that's what I told them, that I'd rather have nothing and look back on my life someday and knowing that I made a decision based on my values and things that were important to me. I remember it clicked in my mind that I had to do something, because I was in a bus. I was in the bus. I was in the crew bus. I moved into the crew bus because I couldn't fucking stand being in the other bus. And I started to get pictures in my mind of hanging myself in the van. And it was so profound and it was so jarring that I had the bus driver, I had Billy bring me to a bus station, and I got on a Greyhound and I went home, eventually caught up to the band at a later time. But that was it. That was the time leading up to Orlando, and I said, this is it. I got to get out of here, and I did. There's a song I want to play for you called Dig Up Her Bones that I wrote when I was 16 years old, before any of the Misfit stuff started. And I remember sitting in my room writing it. So I left the Misfits. she is. Anywhere's where she's from. Anytime is where she'll be. Anything as long as it's mine. And the door it opens is way back in. Or is it the way back now? So I walk on, singing, walk on. In a place is where she'll be. In any place she'll see you from. Lies and secrets become your world. Anytime, anywhere she takes me away. And death climbs up the steps one by one to give you the rose that's been burned by her sun. Point me to the sky, I can't get there on my own. Walk me to the baby, dig up the bones. Ooh, oh, oh, oh. And I have seen the demon's face, and I have heard of her death place. I've fallen down on my knees in praise of love. Horrible things that took her away. And death climbs up the steps one by one to give you the rose that's been burned by her sun. Point me to that sky above. I can't get there on my own. Walking through the graveyard, dig up the bones. Point me to the sky above. I can't get there on my own. Now walk me to the graveyard, dig up the bones. Dig up her bones through the graveyard. That's where you'll find me, and all your twisted memories of you and me. Walk on. So, just so I know, what time do I have to be done? We're closed at 10?
Midnight.
Midnight.
Okay.
You call the
right, so I'm out of the Misfits. This is where it gets really sad. My life takes it's crazy. So I left the Misfits. I had spent some time in the preceding year, right before I left the Misfits. A friend of mine, a really good-looking friend of mine, was going to college in Hawaii, studying marine biology, or she was going to study marine biology in Hawaii. And so I would go out, I flew out there to hang out with her. Not a bad place to be. And when I first got out there, I had lost my voice. It was the first time in my life I ever lost my voice. I never knew if it was going to come back. It was crazy. So her and I hooked up and we became a thing. And I fell in love with this girl. And we got back to New Jersey. I had left the Misfits. And here we are in this tiny Seaside Heights, New Jersey apartment. It was horrible because eventually the money runs out. And the money did run out. And which was fine. I got myself a job. I was working on the pier in Seaside, New Jersey. We tell Arturo this story. And so one of the jobs I had was to put you guys know where Seaside Heights is? Oh, all that's gone now because the hurricane came. But before the hurricane blew everything away, I was one of the guys years ago that after the wintertime I would put the rides back together. Is there any like construction guys in here? Nobody. Come on. Shit. That's a whole different discussion. Anyway, I turned to my foreman as I'm doing this, and the guy next to me, he's like, "What are the torque specs for these things?" I'm like, "Oh, well, no, let's ask the foreman, right?" And I asked the foreman, like, "Hey, man, you got torques? The torque specs are like, those rods that you're on, and they're spinning like that. Well, because of the forces, you have to torque the bolts and the nuts to a certain tension, or they loosen up, and and they come apart." Anyway, so that girl broke my heart. Let's just jump to the next part. That girl broke my heart, and I moved back in with my mom. My dad and my mom and dad had split up. They divorced. Like the first year I was in the Misfits, and we went over to Europe, and it was crazy at my house. I was getting phone calls you wouldn't believe. My dad got so mad that he dug up the bushes in the front of the house and took them with him. I swear on my life, it was that insane. And so over the course of the Misfits, my family had in a lot of ways had come apart. All this crazy stuff was happening. My older sister, whom I was very, very close to, was in a very, very abusive relationship. And so I moved back to my mom's, and here I am after all this. I was the lead singer of the Misfits, and I'm back at my mom's. And my heart is broken. And my mom and her best friend, after a while, said, "All right, we got to get Michael back on the horse." And this is really fucking sad, everybody. So my mom and a good friend of hers, I grew up with her children. One in particular, her name was Carrie Greco. And my mom and Mrs. Greco got me in touch with Carrie and kind of reacquainted Carrie and I. Carrie was spending time in it was like the Bahamas. She was a marine biologist, and she was down there doing stuff. And Carrie and I began to speak to one another, and we hung out. And it was weird because any time before that, Carrie and I were like brothers and sisters. So thinking like we're gonna hold hands. Touch my hand, Carrie. But her and I don't know, it felt different. It was kind of cool. Carrie had some stuff that she had to go back to where she was for a while. And so she did. And I remember her leaving, and she left. I still have it. I look at it all the time. This notebook that she left behind it in my car. And again, long story short, I got a phone call one day. Carrie decided she didn't want to live anymore, and she hung herself when she was in the Bahamas. It was crazy. For a while, we thought she was murdered because nobody could figure out she was that sad. And so Carrie was gone. Soon after that, I woke up one day to my sister saying something happened. Something's going on. Something happened. I went downstairs and looked on the TV and saw the Twin Towers coming down. And not long after that, I was in a band called Graves. I got another phone call that a friend of mine and his fiance were killed by a crazy cop. And again, I can get very deep into these stories, but so I'm trying to paint a picture of, it was just, you want to talk about everything going wrong and everything crumbling around you. I was in the middle of hell. I lost everything. Everything, it seemed. I was back at my mom's and everyone was dead around me, and it was fucking crazy. Empty playgrounds of living, lonely swing sets of the dead. It must be nice in heaven to have an angel help you with subtle silence in your head. So no more crying tonight. Oh, there is our bad dreams and the yelling from the pain. Silent stories I've told you, precious moments never spent. You had another bad day, not here in heaven. All subtle spaces in your head. So no more crying tonight. Oh, there is our bad dreams and the yelling from the pain. Everything is gone, everything's just fine. Monkey bars, love like this, light takes you away from evil roots, the bloodshot eyes, and the playgrounds of the living, lonely swing sets of the dead. Thank you. A friend that was killed, the story goes, his name was Tommy, and his fiance's name was Suzanne, Tommy Leister, Suzanne Delvecchia. An ex-Newark cop went crazy one day and busted into their house and shot them and shot a bunch of his family that lived on the block. It was awful. It was awful. It was awful because just to see the pain that the pain that Tommy's family was going through. My friends were real close to Tommy, and just to see the pain in their eyes and know that they were hurt it was terrible. We wrote a song that we played with a band called Gotham Road that Loki and I started after Graves. There's a song called All the Cars Behind Me. And I remember my buddy Jason Ash, who again is another angel sent to earth for me. After I got out of the Misfits, he was a teacher and taught not too far from where I was staying, and he would come over every single day, every day, and make sure that I was okay. And to see what had happened to all those, it was fucked up. And everything that I was going through too, here I was, all these people that I loved were dying, and the city that I was born next to was on fire. The whole world, it was insane. And here, Loki and I, at that time, we were out with Graves, and I was being sued for $1 million from stuff that was happening from the Misfits. I didn't have $20. These people wanted $1 million from me. I remember Chud saying, I was telling Chud, I was like, man, I got to go home because I got this letter, and they say that I have to show up in court. And I remember Chud being a total asshole about it. And I couldn't believe that one of my best friends was acting the way that he did and totally isolated us. And we were on the cusp of a record contract and a really, really big overseas tour. And I pulled the plug and I quit. Why? What does a man gain if he inherits the whole world and loses his soul in the process? I couldn't stand where I was. To be honest, I couldn't stand Chud anymore. I couldn't stand anybody that was around us, except for there was a couple of people, and they're still around me all these years later, and all those other people are not. I always imagined maybe I could have said something different to Carrie. Maybe she would have called me. I still have her cell number. I should call it. I knew, I couldn't do anything for Tommy. I just wanted people to feel better. I just wanted everybody to feel better. If I could take all the hurt, every bit of it, I would have. And that harkens back to when I was really young, and I must have felt the pain that my mom felt when she lost her mom, and I didn't understand it back then. But here life was just fucking piling it on. And I just wanted to do something to make everybody feel better. So I kept on singing. An angel came to me, her voice like a symphony. She whispered in my ear all the secrets. She covered me in tears, and I rose up in the morning. I dreamt I saw your face. Hallelujah. I'd like to teach the world a song that makes all your troubles feel like they are gone. I take the rain and turn it into sun, so that all your troubles feel like So they are gone. She covered me in her wings and took back what she gave me, the rose that had been burned by her son. And she covered me in tears, and I rose up in the morning. I dreamt I saw your face, I said hallelujah. I'd like to teach the world a song that makes all your troubles feel like they are gone. I'll take the rain and turn it into sun, so that all your troubles feel like they're gone. So they are gone. So they are gone. They are gone, gone, gone. If there's a smile on your face, if there is love in your heart, all the troubles I know will be gone. If there's a smile on your face, if there's love in your heart, all the troubles I know will be gone. They are gone. So they are gone. Gone, gone. Thank you. So I left Graves, to hell with the record contract. I said to hell with the Japanese tour. To hell with it all. I had it. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I was 20, how old was I? 26, 27, probably about 27. And when we started Graves, Chud and I were looking for players. And one day Chud got a CD on the hood of his truck, and we listened to it, and it was awesome. Couldn't believe it. It was awesome. It wasn't until years later that I found out that Loki was playing on that CD and had written a lot of the stuff. I never knew that, because back then, again, I was very, very distracted. When I came out of the Misfits, my head was just, I was in such a bad emotional state. My family was crazy. It was just, it was bad. So I just let Chud kind of run with it. It's funny. The only thing I said to him, I'm like, the only thing that I insist on is that we do not call this band Graves, because I don't want it to be like Danzig, and I don't want it, and of course, you know, they call it Graves. So I find out that Loki wrote a ton of the stuff that was on this on the CD. He's like, yeah, I thought you knew that. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. So I started writing over the music that because it blew my mind, and we started a band called Gotham Road. And we were starting from square one with Gotham Road. There was still smoke in the sky in New York City on September 11th. I was taking the fire department test. I was trying to get on the fire department. Again, the way God works, I hurt my back really, really bad. And couldn't do a certain part of the test. So I skipped over, and as I was training, at one point I went into the smokehouse, and I knew I didn't want to be a fireman. So we go out onto the road, with Gotham Road, and the war had begun. The Iraq War had begun, and again, the whole world was crazy. I had started to write articles. A friend of mine was a radio host in New York City. Someone that worked with him, his name was Nick Rizzuto, was a producer. He started a website called Conservative Punk. And they called me and they asked me if I wanted to contribute and help. And it was just three guys. It was me and Andrew and Nick. And it was in response to something that was happening within the music industry. Mike Burkett from the lead singer of NoFX, smart guy, started a website called Punk Voter. It was called punkvoter.com. And of course, I ran in those circles, and so I got in touch with some people, and Nick did too. And we said, listen, it's probably, in our opinion, a good idea for the young people that are going to pay attention to this sort of thing because of what's happened in the past couple of years, that we give folks both sides of the story. You have to have dissenting opinion, and it's good to disagree about things so that other people can then go make a common sense choice about their opinions, their ideology, their values. And the things that I was saying and representing were in stark contrast to a lot of the things that were being said at Punk Voter. But there was a lot of things that we agreed upon, but that never got brought up. Again, long story short, I became excuse me for cursing, I'm not going to curse. Enemy number one in the music industry, especially in the punk scene. Once we get the show going, later on down the road, one of the things that let me back up. Gotham Road. We had a tour booked in America. We had a tour booked in Europe, and things kind of started happening for us. It wasn't really punk music. It was more metal music. It was something new, something different. The New York Times printed an article, this big picture of me with like my skull face, and I had this like black mohawk, and big color picture. And the New York Times ran this really long article about me and two of my friends up against basically the entire music industry. And that's the truth. There's millions of dollars that were pouring into this effort. These guys were meeting with presidential candidates. It was crazy. And the New York Times ran an article about me and all the things that I was saying. Once that article went out, other major publications in America and abroad picked it up. And what happened when it reached Europe was things started to get lost in translation, and a whole shitstorm started. We got alerted from the promoters in Europe that the show was canceled, and that basically I was told that if I stepped foot, especially in Germany, that I would be killed. Literally. I was getting death threats that went to the FBI. See, crazy stuff. My inbox became inundated with the most vile things you can imagine. And I erased most of them, but then I kept, because they kept on coming in. I said, I got to do something with these, and people are never going to believe me. I have a stack of I turned it into like a coffee table book of all these things that people wrote to me. It's insane. So Gotham Road had problems because I was out there, and I became very aggressive with it because nobody was giving me the chance to say and to answer the questions that people had. It was just me constantly being on defense about these other things. So I never had the chance to substantively articulate what I was trying to say. This is the music industry. I was getting phone calls from people that were my friends, some people that were still alive at the time that aren't now, that were just, they said, man, I love you, we love you, but we got to keep our heads low on this, and we can't get behind you, because nobody was getting behind me, except people like CJ Ramone. I got a call when Johnny Ramone was still alive. Johnny called me. We would show up at places and there would be people waiting outside for us to start trouble. We would be playing and it was insane. And my heart wasn't in what we were doing because I was so worried about my future. I was 28 years old, 29 years old. I had fallen in love again. I know I'm going. You guys want me to play or you want to keep hearing the story?
Story.
Okay, it's almost done to the next part. I had fallen in love again, and I wanted a life. Someday I wanted kids. I wanted to have a normal life. This isn't necessarily the normal life. I was miserable. And a couple of years before, while I was still in Graves, I had run into an old friend of mine's brother. And he was a Marine Corps recruiter. And him and I got a beer one night. And he had been in the Marine Corps for years and years and years. I didn't know. He's someone that graduated with my brother. And my buddy had been in the Marine Corps years and years and years. And I couldn't believe he wasn't in jail. So when I found out he was a Marine, I was very surprised. So him and I got to talking, and I started the process of joining the Marine Corps at a very, very old age when it comes to the military. So here I am, in Gotham Road, and we're doing our thing, and I take an oath to the Constitution. I joined the Marine Corps, and just before I leave, I had written a bunch of songs and recorded an album. And my plan was to go away to the military, the GI Bill, maybe go to college, do something. That didn't work out. I wasn't a very good soldier. I hate that people call me a Marine or think that I am, because I'm much more of a music man than I ever was a soldier. I quit. I got hurt. And when I did, I had lost my morale. I hated it. I was stationed at Picatinny Arsenal off of Route 80. I remember sitting down with my staff sergeant and someone with a very, very high rank. Forget what his name was, but I could see his face. And I remember them telling me, I was 30 years old, by the way, when I was in Paris Island. I turned 30 while I was there. Still, I was running circles around the 18-year-olds, even after I got hurt. I remember sitting down at Picatinny Arsenal after coming back from Paris Island, and I remember those guys saying, "We understand, but you got to go fight what you're fighting somewhere else." We think that these guys gave me the confidence to be able to sort of put my tail between my legs and walk away. And I had continued to, as I still do, work with the military, guys that got back. One of the greatest things that I got to do was to work with these guys that got home. One in particular was a sniper. He was really, really young, man. He was 20-something years old. And when he got home, I know I'm long-winded, I'm sorry. When he got home, the reality of what he had been doing all the years caught up to him. And he told me, and while I was contacted, he had talked to the people that he was working with, his commanders and his doctors, my name had come up, and the Misfits had come up, and somebody had known me, and they got in touch with me. And so I went down, and I started to hang out with this kid, and he would tell me about how the Misfits music got him through, and how the Misfits music was helping him heal. And a little bit of a light went off inside me. So anyway, so now my illustrious military career comes to a screeching halt, and I was empty and fucking lost. What the hell am I gonna do now, right? Somehow, in this quiet conversation, somehow there's nothing to say that's not ghastly, frightening, or shocking. You'll see, feels like it's right behind me. When I found out the truth, I turned white as a ghost. Somehow, in this quiet conversation, somehow there's nothing to say, and that's not ghastly or frightening, shocking. You'll see, it feels like it's right behind me. When I found out the truth, I turned white as a ghost. When I found out the truth, I turned white as a ghost. It's ghastly, shocking, frightening. You'll see, it feels like it's right behind me. Thank you. I really do appreciate all of you very, very much. I appreciate you being patient and sticking with me and listening to my stories. Been going for more than an hour and a half now, and we're only sort of halfway through, so I swear I'll put the pedal to the metal and just skip to the juicy parts. So I start making music again. I start making music again, and I decide I'm going to go back to the beginning. And so I picked up an acoustic guitar, and I started to listen to Robert Johnson, started to listen to Bob Dylan, started to listen to old Haggard. This old country, old blues, gospel music.